All right, we're rolling.
Welcome to my favorite ever episode of Are You Mad at Me? I'm meeting one of my heroes today on the podcast. This is why I podcast, and this is why I've ever done broadcasting in any way, so I can interview people that I want to talk to. It's so nefarious and underhanded.
That's fair.
But we're joined today by my absolute favorite Canadian, Hannah Slay.
Yes, it's awesome to be here. Thank you.
Thanks so much for doing this. So Hannah, of course, you're in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Joining us by the beauty of technology. So, and of course, is Are You Mad at Me? I'm Vickie Morgan.
I'm Josh Morgan.
And we're very excited. Hannah, I have so many questions. I'm going to keep you here for the rest of your life. Like this is just I'll tell you, my 14-year-old has been making fun of me for the last couple of weeks because I told him I made a friend online.
Yeah.
So he's been like, no, don't give out your home address and don't give out your real name. Just use a screen name, Mom. And he's been really...
He's like, can I have their parents' information so I can get in touch?
Yeah, well, because we give him the gears because he meets people online all the time on through YouTube and SoundCloud, and he collaborates with people across the world. And so he was really loving that I met somebody online.
Well, internet friends are a real thing, but also a real danger because you feel like, oh, this person's so fun. And like, oh, we connect right away and we got a good text banter. And for a little while, when I started to get people following me on Instagram that were not my immediate friends and family, I never replied to DMs. I was a very bad influencer. Like I was too good for it. I was too, oh, no, I'm untouchable. I still wanted to be mysterious. And then, a little while ago, like a year ago, I was like, let's get in there. Let's get in the DMs. Let's comment and stuff. And then you start seeing like there's people that are responding more. And then I just start, making friends. And no guys talk to me. Like a couple do actually, but not that many. It's mostly like, oh, I have a BFF in Newfoundland now. So it's very exciting.
Heard it. I've been saying the same thing, but she said it, so it's totally consensual now.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Hannah, we have so much in common. And like the first video that I saw, and I talked about this on last week's podcast, the first video that I saw, you were putting a casserole in the oven and you had a baby on your hip and I think another one on the floor looking up at you, and you put a casserole in and you still had the plastic, and it was like layered because I was watching it and I'm like, yeah, that does look busy. But there was a plastic lid on it. And I just cracked up and I showed it to Josh and I was like, this girl is really, really funny. And so it was just like the little spark. And then it was just one thing after another, like, oh, she did comedy. She's a writer. She's a mom. She's a Canadian married to a Southerner living in the U.S., which we did for 11 years. And it's like, I keep saying to Josh when I'm going through something, I'll go, I wish I could talk to like myself because I'm good at giving other people advice. But I wish I knew somebody like me that is no offense, all over the place, so good at so many things, and like changes with the tide almost. It's just there's no, she's only one thing. It's like you're all the good things, and I'm just so glad that we finally met because this is so exciting for me. I'm so fangirling right now.
Listen, if we get to know each other more, and maybe I would certainly I'd find out lots of stuff, but you would be like, wow, she's crazier than me. And that would give you confidence. That would make you be like, I really have things together. Because this girl, Hannah, I mean, wow, she's struggling out here. So
we did a songwriter circle a couple of weeks ago, and that was one of the things I said to the audience, and they were kind of shocked because I said, my lot in life is to make other people feel good about their lives. And I'm okay with that. I'm totally okay with that. Like, it's the same way. You get to know me, and it's like, oh, she's a mess. How does she have pants on today? Like,
but you're probably like, maybe you're similar to me. Like, are you a mess because you bite off too much, and then all of a sudden there's just too much going on?
Usually.
Yeah.
And I usually go face and eyes into a new hobby, and then it's overwhelming and it's too much, and I have lots of unfinished projects, and then I have a short attention span, except I get hyper focused sometimes. And then, but I go from project to project, and I trying to figure out where I thrive, because if I don't have like an end date in mind, if someone offered me a job right now that I have to do for the next 10 years, I'd quit the first day. I can't commit to 10 years. But when I do a project based, I get sad when it's getting towards the end. Like, I'm already sad that this podcast is going to end at some point.
That's fair.
So, and I also had an epiphany today. I'll share it with you. I talked to somebody this weekend and I said, if we make plans, I'm going to try to find a way out of it immediately. And then I realized this morning that's not true. I don't try to get out of stuff that I want to do. Like, I was looking forward to talking to you today, so I wasn't anxious. I was excited, but I wasn't thinking of ways to get out of it. But when I make plans with somebody I don't want to go out with, then I go, how can I get out of this? Why did I say yes in the first
So
place?
you're putting that off on yourself, like it's your anxiety, but it's actually just
Exactly.
somebody that you don't want to spend time with, or you don't actually want to do the
So
thing.
I'm learning to trust those little instincts and the little inner voices that are like, this is not good for you. So here's what I love about you is my impression of you, and you can tell me this if this is not accurate at all, but it seems like you do what feels good in the moment, and you don't get married to, I have to do this thing now because I got a bunch of likes, or you don't stick to a theme because of past success. Is that accurate?
Okay, say it again.
You don't lock yourself in just because somebody likes what you're doing. You don't say, I have to keep doing this thing because a lot of people like it.
I would say I absolutely do that, but to my detriment. You know, because
How so?
let's talk about like brand in the sense of branding. Okay. Like, once something starts to work for me and there's success in it, I tend to be like, oh, I don't want to be pigeonholed. I don't want people to just think I'm this. I'm more than that. I'm all of this. And so instead of just being like, this works, this could make money, this is the thing that people are relating to, and you know, it's a relatable society we live on. Like, relatability is monetization, right? That's what you monetize, is your connection to your community and people that want you, right? I just feel like, oh, like that's not me, you know, or like, that's fine, that's a part of me, but that's not all of me. So if you said, I think like I'm very good at giving advice, because I know on paper what one should do, let's just say in show business, but I don't necessarily apply that to myself. I like to think of myself as some sort of stricken 19th century Russian poet that the Tsar is after. But I must let my voice sing.
Tortured.
But
tortured
like,
artist.
But like, you know, moms out here like, we don't want your voice, we want your recipes, you know? Like, we don't just be regular, you know? And I am I think the thing is also that I actually am very wholesome. I'm not edgy, but I want to be. So it's just it's a push-pull with me. I'm trying to get smarter about applying myself. Did any of that make sense? Even in my explanation of myself, it's so confused, you know?
No, I think that resonated with me. You're so relatable, Hannah. Can we talk about not the controversial, but the you said you're not edgy? I'd have to disagree.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes you're like right on that.
Right.
Can we talk about the P video?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So you posted on Instagram a few weeks back. It was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
It was a video of you sitting in an SUV, and then you have a text on the screen, and it says, "Don't you hate when you're waiting outside," or something, or you can't take the kids out of the car to go inside to pee somewhere, and you just reach out of the car and you just dump a yellow liquid out of a cup. And it exploded. It exploded.
Well, yeah.
You've got so many other viral videos out there. Like, that's not I don't mean to pigeonhole you, but when you said you're not edgy, it was like, I think that was the real you. That was your humor. That was just an honest moment. And how did people react to it?
Yeah. Well, that one, it's like, that's a good example of, it went semi-viral, I guess. Like, I don't think it's hit 1 million or anything, but it got attention for sure. But people were disgusted. And I'm not judging them for it. It is disgusting. Like, I can't be like, oh, the internet. I guess you're not ready for the real with me. You know, it's like, it's gross. Like, and I discovered, oh, okay. Like, that's like a me thing. That's not like, oh, we as a society need to talk about how women are secretly peeing in their cars. No, most people are not doing that. And I discovered that the hard way. And, it got a lot of views, but it didn't get a lot of follows. I look at the metrics. It's like people aren't seeing that video being like, that's our girl. People are seeing that video, and what they want to do is either unfollow me or let me know in the comments that I need to keep those things to myself. So it is what it is, and I don't want to make videos like that. Like, I'm very as in principle against just rage bait is what I would call it.
Yes.
I honestly didn't think that would get rage bait. It's always the videos you don't think much about that end up having some kind of a more broad hit. And then the videos that you're trying to go viral on, never do, whatever. So that one I just thought that's kind of weird, but it's true. It's honest. And that's why I did it. Cause I was like, this is sort of a weird, funny thing that I do that I think is weird and funny. I do totally know it's weird and gross. I do know that. But it is honest. And I'm like, that's what I do, sometimes. I've stopped doing it since then, honestly. I don't do it anymore.
Well, because people are watching your car now. I'm sure there's people watching to see if they're going to get some, TMZ type of video of, she really does it. It's true. It wasn't just branding.
Yeah.
So tell me, oh my God, I think there's a market out there for virtual assistants or somebody, people who can sign into your social media and go through the comments for you and filter out the stuff that you don't want to ever hear, ever repeated. Many, many, many years ago, I wrote an article, very benign. I thought it was quirky and funny, and it was about how we had moved back to Newfoundland, and we were, what were we doing for money? I don't think we had any money. We were visiting food banks. We were volunteering at a food bank to justify getting food from a food bank. That's how bad it was when we moved back to Newfoundland. And so, CBC, not many people know about CBC if you're not outside of Canada, but I wrote an article for them about how we were struggling to find our way, but we wanted to be in Newfoundland because we had been in the U.S. for a long time. And so I put in these little things about how we were stocking up on craft dinner, and we were going to the Salvation Army to get a food hamper for Christmas and whatever. And it went viral, and it went across Canada, and it was the most shared thing for that week. But the comments, people were calling to check on me. Are you okay? And I was like, I don't know why are you checking on me? And they're like, oh, didn't you see what that person from Alberta? Because it was mostly Alberta. A lot of people from Newfoundland moved to Alberta and work in the oil fields. And so they're very wealthy. And so a lot of them were sharing it back and forth. Look at this white trash back in Newfoundland, and she's, milking the system, whatever.
Oh.
It was brutal. So people were calling to check on me to see if I was okay. The producers at CBC were calling to see if I was okay. And I was like, I haven't read the comments, but people were telling me the comments. So even though I was doing the mentally healthy thing to not check, people were calling to check on me and tell me what was in the comments. And I stood up for you and I said this thing. And I was like, I don't want this in my life. It was just, I got $200 for that article. It was not worth the heartache or anything else. But anyway.
Was it a heartache? What did it end up being a net bad for you and your family, that article?
That's a good question.
I feel like it was a good place to start talking about that we're in Newfoundland, and a few people came offering maybe I have an idea for a job lead or things like that, or there was a few things like that were good. But I mean, it was more you wanted to be writing, and it was a start in writing, and then that ended up you wrote a couple more, and then there were some scripts that had down the road it was a kind of just like a primer for the writing.
That's a really good point.
So aside from the comments and the I don't know about backlash, but it was a good start.
It was a long article, and it was a flow kind of this went to this, and it was a longer kind of thing, and I loved it. And I think no one's ever asked me that question, and nobody's ever put it to me that way, like you just said it. Because I have a sample. Now I have an article to send to somebody when I pitch other ideas. I can say, well, and then it led to a couple of other articles on CBC, but it really didn't take off in the way I wanted to because I felt so attacked. It was so I guess I shouldn't share who I really am. And I thought some of the stuff was funny, but it wasn't received that way. And it really hurt. I guess so I'd say it was a net bad for me emotionally because I was afraid to write after that and didn't share for a long time.
I mean, what I hear just objectively is you wrote something with such impact that it went viral, and it gave people some kind of reaction. And I mean, I think that to me is impressive because it really doesn't matter what you're writing about, any subject. Mm. It could be, it could be genocide, it could be the time you fell in love, all these like beautiful, impactful moments. But if you can't write it well, it doesn't really matter. But obviously you wrote it very well because it had the impact, you know?
Yeah.
But it's interesting that because of the reaction, you it closed you down a little bit for a time.
It takes a long time to recover from it.
Yeah.
And so the next article came out. But like, that's a really, really good point. And I found something on Instagram earlier, and it said, surround yourself with women who were doing it, who were in the arena. It wasn't Brene Brown. It was something else about women who can like pat you on the back and bring the positives out of things, and who are also doing the same kind of stuff. And so I feel like this is a great segue into the writing world, because you posted something. Yeah. I don't want to leave this topic behind, so we're going to probably have to start our own podcast so we can just talk all the time. When people read stuff that you've written and they read it really fast, they read it in one sitting, they can't put it down, they're impacted by it, and they react to it. I can see this now for you. I just couldn't see it for me. But like I know you've written some stuff on Substack that just, it caught me, like took my breath away to start reading it. And I would just have to stop whatever I was doing and sit down and finish it. Where, moms are usually, we don't have a whole lot of time. Then it takes a lot to get our attention. But I know you're exactly that kind of writer where it's so compelling that you have to keep on reading. And I know that's the point. Like lots of people want to write, and it's a craft, and so it takes practice, and some people are just born, I think, knowing how to do it. You're one of those people that I know you've mentioned that you edit a lot, but I think it comes out the final product is beautiful. I don't know how much work goes into it. Tell me about your process when you write, and how much you agonize over editing.
Vickie, you're the first person to say that to me about my writing. So thank you. I mean, I get nice comments in the Substack. So I'm not going to say you're the first, but you're the first person in real life to say it like that. And that means so much to me. Because I've actually been like assessing like my Rolodex in my head of what I perceive to be my skills and talents. And writing prose is at the bottom of that.
Oh, wow.
I think that I am a good writer. I think I'm an ideas person, and I think I'm a funny person. And so quick jokes come pretty fast and easy to me, which is why I think, Instagram has been a decent platform for me, because I can just slap up a visual and then put a joke on top of it. And, or do like a 40-second video with, kind of a beginning, middle, and end, like in a sketch comedy or a character-based thing where you've got some funny lines in there. You've got sort of an idea of how to do things, but it's all extremely short form, right? What I have found with my long form writing is just torture. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot. I love reading. And so I'm reading the best. I'm reading Colette and Flaubert and John Updike and mostly like 19th century and early 20th century writers, just the most beautiful prose. And then when I sit down and write my own, it's like just garbage next to it. And I've really just recently started my Substack again. I've written throughout my life, but with pretty substantial breaks in between. So I'm always like sort of shaking the rust off. And girl, it's like I need a mentor or something with my writing, because I just sit down, I've got the vision, and then I kind of start writing, and then I'm editing while I'm writing, and then I'm like, that's not the way. So I've tried to stop myself from editing while writing a first draft, and then I'll write the first draft, and then I'll come to it the next day, and then I'll start rereading what I wrote, and then it's just like, it's just a mess. And then the whole thing gets so jargled that I'm like, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. And then I'll just be sitting here and I can't think of the word that I want, or I can't think of the way I want to say it. And it's so maddening that I can't just think of that perfect word that I'll read in the New Yorker. I also have a subscription to the New Yorker. So narrative journalism, where it's just the most beautiful, elegant writing in like the world. And then I'm just sitting there with my own, and I'm like, oh, and it's such a heartbreaking endeavor. Like I want to be this like profound, awesome writer, but it's like, okay at best in my eyes. It's like okay at best. And then, I wanted to put out a Substack every week. And I'm like, I can't put this out every week. I'm not happy with it within a week, so that it takes longer. And then I'm like, I don't even know like realistically how to approach it at this point, because I'm like, I don't want to just shove it out there if it's not good, but it's also like, there's some sort of consistency. So it's a real mess for me. It's a real mess for me right now. And that's why it's so encouraging that you said that, because I was like, oh, okay.
I think so. I'm going to tell you, I think you are a profound writer, and I mean that very sincerely. And the stuff that you're reading, if it resonates with you from the 19th century and whatever, like if that's still resonating with you, that's profound. So your stuff right now is profound for our time, because it's the way things are right now. And also, I don't think anybody ever sits down and writes it easily. I think everybody struggles to find the word. It's like tuning into a radio station, because it's not really coming from us. It's coming from somewhere else. We're channeling or something or whatever. But like when you're not tuned into a radio station, there's kind of that static, and you got to like find exactly are you young enough to remember radio dials? You're not that young, right?
I'm 40.
Okay. So you remember radios. But when you're not totally tuned into what's trying to come through, that's when I think the word is like, there's a little static there. It needs to like it. And sometimes as a parent, that's just the moment that someone will come along and say, I need a snack, or I just spilled something, or the cat got out, or whatever.
Well, we were just watching last night. There's a new CBC radio documentary about Gordon Lightfoot. And it was like, he was like you said, like a profound songwriter, just a poet, just beautiful stuff. And you would, to listen to it. And even when he talks about writing his own music, you're like, oh yeah, he just sits down and writes out, Early Morning Rain. Like it obviously just took him the amount of time it takes him to sing the song to write that down. But people were talking about how he would agonize and edit and rewrite, and he would just isolate himself for these huge chunks of time where he was just fixing a song to get it the way he wanted it. So like you're talking about the people that you admire, like they were probably agonizing over it, going, oh, I'm not as good as whoever
product
behind me. Exactly.
The final product is nothing like the process.
Is that how you experience your writing too, Vickie? Like, are you focused on your writing right now? I know you have obviously your podcast, and but you're a musician as well.
So I would love to be able to say I'm this one thing. I don't have one label, and it drives me crazy, because but maybe that's why I'm not successful at any of them. That's what I tell myself. That's what the maggots in my brain tell me. My friend Allison used to call it maggots.
No, that's perfect.
So it is, because it gets in there and it's like, oh, it is kind of like the little doubts kind of creep in while I'm writing. And so sometimes while I'm writing a song, halfway through I'll hate it and go, this is the worst piece of garbage. I can't ever share this with anybody. I don't want to waste people's time with this song. But it comes out sometimes in a skit or a sketch or a character or a joke I want to make on Instagram, or a TikTok video, or a poem. I don't write poems. They usually end up being songs. But I've been writing my whole life, and it comes in spurts. And I'm terrified that someone's going to hire me to write a show where I have to come up with stuff every week or every day, God forbid.
Right.
Like, that's kind of like, what if we talk about this a lot when we try to put stuff together. Like, what if we ran out of ideas? Which is kind of funny, because I'm learning that like when you fill the cup, then there's something in there to get back out. So if you're in the process of writing something and you get interrupted and you're trying to think of a word, like you can come back to that, tap into that energy again and go, okay, I know what I was trying to say. And maybe sometimes is not ready. You grow things. I know you guys farm. Some things aren't ready to come up yet. Some things maybe need more time to germinate or not germinate. That's pollination, or that's like how they, I don't know. I don't know much about farming.
We're not farmers.
But I do know that there are some things that get planted in the ground that, bamboo is my favorite example, that it's below the ground for 80% of the time. And then the last 20% of its life, it shoots up and it's like 8 feet tall. So some things maybe need more time. And I think trusting that process, like if you can't find the right word, maybe the word's not there yet. And maybe it takes a little more time maybe it's going to come in a different way. You see a meme, or you see something in the backyard or whatever that triggers. Sometimes they take time. So putting it on a schedule and saying, I'm going to write every single week is kind of terrifying, because sometimes I could write 3 things in a week, and sometimes not for months. It depends on how much my anxiety is going crazy. So I do agonize, but I think that's part of the creative process. And everybody that I've been doing interviews, we've tried a bunch of different iterations of this podcast and radio shows. But over the years, I've interviewed so many people in different, like a lot of hockey players, a lot of musicians, and they all say pretty much, there was even a hockey player, he's pretty famous now with the Montreal Canadiens. he was doing a degree in psychology while he was finishing up in the American Hockey League, and he said he was doing his thesis paper on flow and how everything is magical and sparkly when you're in that space. And he was talking about it as a hockey player, like when the puck hits exactly the right place and all these, hockey references. But it was all the musicians I've talked to say the same thing. Like, I wanted to write a song, or I had an idea for a song and I mowed the lawn and the song came out of me, or I got out of the shower and the song came to me. And I think there's like those inspired moments, but I think it also gets wrapped up in creative people. I think it gets wrapped up in all this angst and self-doubt and all these other little inner critics that hold you back, but I think it's part of the process. And I don't think everybody has that. I think there are lots of people who would never want to write a song to save their life. But I think when it does hit, it's a process that you just, like getting on stage and performing, which I also want to ask you about. It gets easier. It never gets totally easy, but I think it's a muscle that you can make stronger by practicing and trusting that there's someone out there. This is what helps me when I write. Trusting that there's at least one person out there that would want to read it also helps me, that there's a kind receiver on the other end. Like if I were writing an article right now and I said, you know what, I'm writing this for Hannah because Hannah's down there in Tennessee right now thinking she's not a great writer and I want her to know. We just did a clip last week. I'm talking a lot. I really, this is beautiful. We posted a clip the other day and you liked it on Instagram, and I'm so glad that you saw it because you're exactly the person that I meant it for. Do you know the one I'm talking about?
Which one?
Let me think. I just went blank. Hold on. It was about trying to fail.
Right.
Because if you're not trying to hit viral and you're not trying to put your brand out and make your label hit whatever, and you're not trying, like if you're kind of have a sense of humor about it and you go, you know what, I'm going to throw a joke in my writing. And some people will get it and some people won't. And some people think I just put a wrong sentence in there. But I think if you are just happy doing what you're doing, how can anybody make fun of you? How can anybody ever say anything negative that would hurt? Because I think that's what is the problem for me, is when stuff gets through. So what that experience with the CBC article, it hurt. I wasn't ready for that kind of feedback. I wasn't ready for viral, and I certainly wasn't ready for the trolls to criticize my parenting and say my kids should be taken away because I was feeding them Kraft dinner.
Based on an article.
It was ridiculous. And like one person, God love them, they said, why don't you go back to school and get a real job? Like, dude, I have 5 degrees. I can't go back to school. They will not take me. They won't let me.
Yeah.
Because but the feedback was so personal, and it keeps me from, like, I don't want to do a podcast because what if somebody goes on there and makes fun of how big my nose is or my teeth are crooked? And it's like, you're playing it out in your head so much that it's like, I probably shouldn't share it all. But I will tell you that in the past week, and we talked about this on the podcast that came out today, the doctor called me last week. I had a letter came in the mail and said, go get a mammogram. And I was like, I didn't even ask for a mammogram, but okay. And I was totally cool, totally proud of myself for taking care of myself. Like, look at me. I literally bounced into the room and I was like, I'm ready for this today. I didn't wear deodorant because I know that'll show up on a mammogram. So I'm ready for this. And I was like, yeah, put them in. Take is perfect. And I was laughing with the girl. That was on Friday, a couple of weeks ago. The doctor called on Monday and goes, we found a lump.
God.
And I'm like, okay. Like all the things that people talk about. The room was just, I wasn't there. I was out of my body. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah. They think it's a cyst, but we need to check it. So I went and did some medical research, and I'd give out unsolicited medical advice on this podcast all the time. Apparently, a cyst and a tumor look exactly the same on a mammogram. So now I have to go wait for it. They haven't scheduled it yet because I'm using Canadian healthcare. But I have to go get an ultrasound, because on an ultrasound, they can just go and they can see if it's fluid or cancer from an ultrasound. So my question is, why didn't they just do an ultrasound first and not put me through 3 weeks of toxic? I don't know how long it's going to be, but it was a really good, I think I'm fine, but it was a really good, sorry, I don't mean to
You're
unload.
okay. You're all right. This is real stuff.
I don't mean to traumatize you.
It's real stuff.
But it's like, I don't have any risk factors. I'm 47. I breastfed. There's no history in my family. I feel totally fine. And it's probably a cyst. It was probably just really bad timing for the
people get lumps. I had a lump in my
cyst-
neck that I had to get cut out. I don't know if you can see it, but I had a huge lump in my neck for 2 years, and it was just fat. It was just a fat lump sticking out of my neck.
I've got one on my shoulder. It's called keloid cells or something. And the doctor saw that years ago, and he was like, yeah, we could cut that out, but it's the type of cells, it'll just grow back. Mm-hmm. These are really good things to know. But right now I'm on like a phone appointment basis with my doctor. So he calls, and I was like, what do you mean you found a lump? So I can't imagine this is good for my body to wait and wonder, because I've been planning my funeral. I'm looking at my children going, what if this is the last time we have muffins? And I'm fine. Yeah. But like, I'm really grateful for the experience, because it's given me that extra push of like, you have to stop worrying about what people think. Like, and so we pitched a show. I want to tell you about that because I think you might love what it is. But anyway, I want to talk about your writing, because you're a marketing genius. I know you don't believe that, but you are a marketing genius, because these inspired moments that you have, whether it's a funny video or the copy that goes along with the Instagram post, you're really inherently good at it. Really, really good at it.
Thank you. Holy crap.
Do you believe it?
No, but holy crap, Vickie, like, you said so many things. And then just now I'm like, whoa. Like, I wanted to address like all that. And then you're like, I have a breast cancer scare. I'm like, whoa. Like, don't we all though? Like, I mean, especially once you hit 40, they're like, you need a mammogram every 2 seconds, sweetheart, you know?
Yep.
So I'm just, So first of all, listen, you're going to be fine. You're going to be just fine. I am going to pray for you, mostly for your mind. But you're going to be fine. And yes. Okay. So I just had to like let go of like everything like I just heard you say, because it was like, oh man, I'm just feeling for you. Sorry. Because I have health scares. Like listen, I've had health scares. When I was 2 days away from giving birth to Daisy, my mother-in-law was staying with us because I was about to give birth to my first child. And she goes, are you okay, Hannah? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And she goes, what's on your neck? She proceeded to point out a huge lump sticking out of my neck. It was about 2 centimeters thick, basically the size of a golf ball, a flattened golf ball. And it was just there on my neck. And we were like, what? It freaked.
Did you not notice it?
No. No.
Because you're pregnant. Everything's coming out of you. Stuff is swelling up everywhere.
Here's the thing. I don't like to look at myself in the mirror. Okay. I do look at myself in the mirror. But
certainly not the back of your neck.
Yeah. Well, the thing about it was you could see the scar. And that's really where the scar is, but the lump was kind of more down here. So if I was going like this and the lump was still in my neck, you could see it. And you could see it at certain angles, but straight on, you really couldn't see it. And then certainly with my hair down, you couldn't see it. And that's what I said to my husband. Have you not seen this? You know? So I freak out. I am a hypochondriac. I'm so full of anxiety. If I'm full of anything, it's anxiety. And I'm a fatalist. Nothing good is ever happening. Everything is just like right around the corner is doom. Okay. But I have a really smiley face. Okay. So it's like, I got a smiley face, but I'm like, ah. So I go in and the doctor's like, this is, I go in, I'm pregnant. So I go to the pregnant ward of the hospital because they send me in there because I'm about to burst. And then he's like, what are you doing here? Are you having contractions? And I was like, no. And he goes, what are you doing here? And I go, I got a lump on my neck. I'm with my mother-in-law. And then I show it to him, and this is his reaction. He goes, whoa. That was the doctor's reaction. He goes, whoa. I'm like, oh my God. So of course I'm thinking cancer. So of course I'm thinking cancer. I'm like, oh my God, I'm about to give birth to my first child, and then I'm going to die, and it's just so sad. And so he's like, oh, there's nothing you could do about it. It's like, you're about to have a kid. They're not going to do any surgery. They can't do any x-rays. Right. I just have this massive lump in my head. In a way, I kind of feel like it was a distraction on my brain because I was already so in my head about having a baby. But so I got induced with Daisy. I went in, all I'm thinking about is this lump in my neck. I'm not thinking about this baby I'm about to have. I'm not thinking about becoming a mom. I'm thinking about this lump on my neck. And I'll tell you what, I actually have never taken, I need them, but I've never taken anti-anxiety medication. I'm very anti those things. I was just raised a certain way. And then also I wasn't raised in America where they throw pills at everything. No judgment if you do it. I've just never done it. And so they give me an epidural and I'm like, Oh, yeah, baby. It was so good.
I have 10
Oh,
babies. With epidurals, I'd have 10 of them. No sweat.
dang. I just remember laying there and like vaguely being aware that I was about to have a baby, vaguely being aware about this cancer diagnosis that I'm sure was impending. But I was like, this is what I'm talking about. And that epidural just did me right. And then I had the baby and it all came back. But they did do like an x-ray on my neck while I was in labor.
Yeah.
And it came back
in
and
labor?
well, yeah. Yeah, because I was getting induced and I was in labor. I was in there for like a day and a half, like having the baby, getting the epidural. Somebody came in, did a little thing on my neck, and it came back after I'd had Daisy, but I was still in the hospital recovering. And they were like, this is lipoma, not to be confused with, no, it's
lymphoma.
It's lymphoma. Oh, yeah. Not to be confused with lymphoma. What I had was lipoma, which is a fat, like just like fat tissue that kind of just grows out of nowhere, inexplicably. Most people don't get it on their neck. Most people get it on their like elbows or their hands or just their back if they're, but I got a huge chunk of lipoma just growing out of my neck that seemingly no one noticed for at least 2 or 3 years. It had to have been growing, and it does grow over time.
Was it there that long, or
it had to have been
out?
because it was so big. It didn't just pop up one day. It was growing slowly over time. And maybe it got exacerbated with my pregnancy hormones. I don't know.
Yeah. Or it was like just a little gift from the universe to distract you from delivery.
It was all the things.
That's what I heard. That's what I just heard just now is like, you know what? That was such a blessing.
Yeah, it was.
So my new theory, and I said it out loud the other day, and Josh was like, that's kind of crazy. And he said it on the podcast, which is also great. We like to carry out all of our marital troubles in the podcast. But I said, if I don't worry about something, that's when bad things happen. And he was like, name one time. I'm like, when he had cancer. So we were living in Maine, and we decided to drive down to North Carolina we were going to take our time, and we spent a month on the road in a camper with 2 small children. And just before we left, he goes, I think there might be a lump. And I went, you're fine. You're 30-something years old. You're fine. A month later, we come back and he goes, that lump is still there. So at the time, Josh had a urologist because he had just had a vasectomy a year before. And so he calls the urologist and he goes, I found something. The next day, he was sent for an ultrasound. I went to a therapy session. I'm in the therapist's office making fun of like, Josh has found a lump. He's 30. He thinks he's got cancer. Ridiculous. So I come out to the parking lot. Josh is on the phone talking to the doctor saying, yeah, I already had lunch today. I had Burger King. Why? And the doctor's like, you got cancer. We got to get you in for surgery. It was the next day after he had seen So he was in surgery the next day. And I was like, but I didn't worry. I was making fun of him. So I'm convinced that if I don't worry, so I go into this mammogram, like, come on, where's the machine? I'll do it myself. I'll show you how to do it. And so I know it's not related, but I also feel like someone said to me the other day, all the things I've ever worried about, none of them ever came true. So obviously worrying works.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is life is hard and scary things do and will happen. I mean, you're not going to be untouched by life. I mean,
no.
And
Josh has been in follow-ups for the past 10 years, and he's clear every single year. But it gives me a little touchstone of, are you living your best life, and are you letting stuff get in the way that is completely unnecessary and just holding you back from the creative stuff that you could be doing? And I give speeches to people all the time about, you have this creative ability. It's a crime to keep it to yourself because you could make somebody happy. You could make somebody feel less alone. It's a service to other people to share what your gifts are. And then with myself, it's like, you should shut up. You shouldn't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody what you do, or, you had a funny thought. Okay, keep it yourself.
Right.
So.
Well, just like on the anxiety thing, like you say, you have like a lot of worry and a lot of anxiety. I do too. And my husband always points out that I'm like the queen of worrying about things that are not real. But when it's crunch time and there actually is bad things happening and serious things happening, like I'm like a rock. Like all of a sudden I'm like
you shine.
Not worried at all. And everything's fine.
Right.
Like I like get into gear. So I'm actually really good under pressure. But
same.
It's almost like my mind needs something to put itself into. But But when everything's good, it's sort of like, we don't know how to function like this. This is not something we feel familiar with. So we're going to manifest and we're going to not manifest, but create things,
No.
you know?
I think that's accurate. I think it's part of the creative people who, it's just part of the process. And I think as we get older, like I know when Oprah hits 50, she really hit her stride and she was happy after that. But I think as you get older, you start to go, this doesn't matter. And you get a little more comfortable with that anxiety and that, because it has probably kept your children safe. Like the anxiety is like, I'm a hypochondriac is a perfect word for it. I can't stand when people tell me about their symptoms because I start to feel them. Mm-hmm. So when I see somebody putting symptoms on their Facebook page, I unfollow them because I don't want to hear what they had yesterday, or I can't stand it. So my anxiety is, so if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I had a terrible cold this week," and they start telling me about it, I feel sick for 3 days.
Right.
And that wipes me. So as far as like, I don't care about catching the cold. I just don't want to lose 3 days to anxiety. And so taking care of keeping that space around me and keeping mental health space is like massive. And what we've talked about, and I don't specifically talk about it on the podcast because mental health people, like stuff that the topic of mental health is like, it's kind of like a taboo thing. So I kind of just slide it in every now and then, that it keeps me happy to do creative things, that I have these outlets. During this past, we started painting our house. While I'm waiting for this ultrasound, we started painting our house, and I want to stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning. Josh is exhausted. He's amazing. He's a saint. Okay, well, let's do another room, Vickie. That's great. But like when I was anxious about a songwriter circle, I knit 3 sweaters and I have stacks and stacks of dishcloths and hats. So I'm finding creative outlets because it keeps my hands and my brain busy. And so I'm learning how to cope and how to keep going. And also somewhere along the line, I guess I'll need someone, like you said, like a mentor to say, your writing's really good. You should do this. You should share this. Or let me have a look at your first draft. Maybe it's not as bad as you think. But having that, and of course I don't want to be dependent on somebody. I just had an intrusive thought but then you need that person forever. So there's a whole lot of, I think it just goes hand in hand with when you open that door to creativity, I think there's creativity that knows this is a safe place for me to land, and that's the ideas will start coming more and more, and coping with it. So you can turn to drugs or get a huge addiction problem. But if you just can figure out how to cope through those feelings, I think that's where I am, is coping with the creativity, because it is not only a Band-Aid for stressful things, but I think it's also what I'm meant to do and what I'm here to do, and learning how to let that come out. You don't take there's a farming reference about if something's not thriving, you don't blame the plant, you just change the environment that it's in so it can thrive.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm working on.
Well, I hear so much of what you're saying, and I feel totally relating to you, Vickie, totally relating. Like that you're sensitive, that you're a sensitive person. And because you're sensitive, it makes you an artist, because you take this chaos of life and you infuse it through your own filter and you create things from it. And because you're sensitive, you're a great artist, and you have all these ambitions and thoughts and ideas and skills that you've garnered yourself. But that sensitivity is like a double-edged sword, because you're able to do it because you're sensitive, but once it's released, the feedback is still received with your sensitivity, and that's the hard part. Yep. And everything else that goes along with it. So, I might be projecting, but that's how I am. Everybody tells me, I've been told my whole life, and before, when I had a modest acting career, that people, like I had a showrunner tell me one time, he goes, "Hannah, you're so sweet, but maybe too sweet for this industry." And that broke my heart for years. That comment lived rent-free in my head. It still lives in my head. Wow. Because in different ways, people have always said that to me. Not that I'm not talented, not that I'm this and that. It's that I can't take the heat. And they might be right. Like, I don't know. Like, because I am so sensitive that it's like I can put it out there. I can begin the project. I've got these great ideas. I've developed these skills over 20 years. But I but like my vision of myself as an artist never is what it ends up being in reality, and that always like really messes with me. And I'm not going to say, oh, they're right, but that's something I have to reckon with as a creative person. And like, so I've been working fiendishly on growing my Instagram and started a Substack recently, but it stopped being fun for me. And I got so in my head about the internet and consistency and putting it out and what's my brand and what am I doing here and what can I create and how to keep going. And then it just stopped being fun. And as you just said now, it's like, I think I have to change the environment. I think I have to reassess what's going on. I'm not stopping, but I have to reassess because it got to be a place where I felt really unhealthy, just as a person. And then that trickles into my family and the vibe in the house, my relationships. And it's like, okay, well, all those things are more important. The family is important to keep intact and to keep healthy. So I need to be healthy for the family. So I'm just kind of drawing back and just trying to grab some peace here for a second. And to like, just be a person without putting out so much stuff, without putting out, So
I'm processing all of that. I love that. I loved all that. And I'm going to say I'm very sorry for that person who said to you how sweet you are and probably too sweet for this industry, because that is such a backhanded, underhanded, like you carried it. It hurt.
Yeah.
Right?
And I also worked with him for another 2 years. So, he wasn't writing much for me either. We'll just say that.
And what a way to...
The writer's room had given up on me on season 1. So.
Okay. So I'm really glad you mentioned that, because I have a whole new perspective this week. I know I don't mean to be like, it doesn't happen. How often does this happen? How many times do I have epiphanies where I just reinvent myself?
That's not that often.
It's been 19. We're coming up on 19 years.
Husbands are like, we've seen it all.
The right ones are amazing, and they roll with it, and they love us just the way we are, even though we keep changing and morphing into different things. It's awesome. So they get to marry 17 different people, really.
That's it? So you only have 17?
So far. If that's one a year, I think we're doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So one thing I want to address is that you said about being healthy for your family. Like, our most important job that we do every single day and do a great job of, our kids are healthy, they're fed, they're safe, there's a roof over their heads, they're happy, they know they can come to us and talk to us. And I know that's exactly the same in your house. So congratulations for that. Congratulations on being an amazing mom who cares about being present, and that they are the priority, which is so much more than we can say for so many other generations. Number 2, this week, over the past couple of podcasts, we've been talking about, I've been ranting really about this experience I had. And I'm really glad for these experiences because they tell me what I need to learn. I auditioned for something. Now I talk about cleaning up my cupboards, and like whatever comes to the doorstep, that's what I'm going to trust. So I don't need to be a musician. I don't need to be a comic. I don't need to be whatever. So this opportunity literally came to my doorstep where someone was in my house talking about this dinner theater. And so I was like, "Oh, acting would be fun. I've done a lot of it. I'd like to do that again. I'd love to do a paid thing for in the acting world." But the position was really far from my house, and there was other roles available, and it was a dinner theater. It wasn't like intense TV, serious actor contracts or anything. So my first indicator that I wasn't comfortable was when they asked me for a meeting in person after the audition. I brought Josh because he's my buffer. When he's in a room, people talk to me differently. So, and
you felt like you needed to have somebody else there. You mean
there was something in there that was not totally comfortable with meeting this man in a coffee shop to talk about the role. So I'm going to cut the story short because I want to make the best of our time here, Hannah.
We can also go a little longer. It's okay.
Okay. What I figured out this week is that women especially, and I don't want to make it about a gender because it's not about a gender. I feel like, but because I'm a girl, I'll put it in those terms. What I can bring to the table and what you can bring to the table is brilliance. I'm comfortable saying that about you. You can bring brilliance to the table.
I'm comfortable
and you're
with you saying it about me too.
Good. What somebody is missing out on if they can't, I'm going to say accommodate. If they can't accommodate what you need to get your brilliance to come out comfortably, they're missing out. And so what I did this earlier this week, because of the experience I had with the dinner theater. So what we essentially what we were coming to was they wanted to pay dirt money. And it was a way out of town. It was an hour drive through country roads, not highway, but country roads, where I'd have to let somebody else drive me, which is another anxiety trigger for me. So I said, all right, I'll bring Josh to the meeting. And they had all the roles. And I said, you know who else is really funny and a great actor? And this is all true. And Josh is also a graphic designer, and he does a lot of marketing and video production. And we've made TV shows, and we've done all kinds of things. So I said, you know who'd be great? Maybe I wouldn't mind driving out of town for an hour every day and an hour back and an 8-hour shift, was if you brought Josh. And then we were like, well, if we're both going to be out there, that means the kids are going to be back in the city for 10 hours at a time, 11 and 14 years old. So if something happened, if some catastrophe happened, I could not get back to town fast enough to get them to the hospital or help them, or they could die before I got back to town. This is where my brain went.
Of course. You're a mom. So of course you would think that.
Catastrophe every moment. I've imagined them dying a billion different ways, and that's why they're healthy, because I keep them from doing the things. I don't let them climb high, and they only have fun when they're with their dad.
Yeah, it is. It's dads throw them into walls for fun.
Exactly. Let them ride their bicycles. They got new bikes last week, and I was like, put them in the basement. You're not riding that, because we live on a hill. So I imagine them driving into traffic and spokes through their brains, because that happened to a kid when I was 10. But anyway. I lost my train of thought. Hold on, it'll come back.
Okay, so you asked them, you know, would there be a place for Josh? But you're also like, this is all too far away.
So that was the first level of accommodation. And then we realized, so it's a folk festival sort of thing. It's supposed to be a folky kind of,
community.
It's a community where I have a lot of relatives, but no one who I could stay with or anything, but because, family, you know how family is. So we were kind of joking around. And I said, it looks like we're going to have to move to this town for the summer. And they were like, oh, that's a possibility. But then it became this thing like Vickie needs her family nearby. Like Vickie needs her kids within an hour drive. And it was like, and so I turned it down. I said, just let's stop right here. Because if I have to drag money out of you guys, or if I have to drag these accommodations out of you to get the best out of me, I don't want to do this. If it's not enthusiastically given, keep it. Mm-hmm. But I realized, so what that triggered, so I sat down with the kids. I'm like, okay, so we're not moving to this town for the summer, but we do have this plan we've been talking about literally for 19 years that we want to get an RV and travel across Canada and the United States now that I'm a dual citizen and Josh is a dual citizen. We want to travel and show our kids all the sights and sounds and all the structures and the theme parks and all those things. So they were like, well, how do we do that? Because, Mom, you don't have a job. In case you haven't noticed, you have a podcast that you don't get paid for. And I was like, well, there is this broadcaster.
Snarky kids, though.
Very much so. Oh, very much so. Yeah. How are you going to do that? So I said, well, there is this broadcaster that's been chasing us I was saying 5 years. It's actually been 7. There is this broadcaster that's been literally chasing me for 5 years. They have meetings. They come to town. They're from Ontario. And they sit down with us. And I started bringing Josh to the meetings, too. And they were like, we want to be in they actually use this line. We want to be in the Vickie business. And I was like, ugh, nobody really says that. But so it turns out I put them off 2 years ago. I said, yeah, whatever. You don't mean that. But they did. So it took 2 years for me to finally get to a place where I went, you know what? I'm ready to make TV again. I had a terrible experience during the pandemic with a broadcaster. I wrote a book about it. It's called How to Fail at Documentary Filmmaking. It was a miserable experience. It's a funny book, but it was a miserable experience. So it took me 2 years to recover from that bad feedback because they rejected the show. They hated it. There was a group in Ontario, and they brought their legal department in from Quebec, and they hated the show that I made for them. So I did get a best-selling novel out of it. But it's taken me 2 years to recover from that. And so when we sent it, so what came from that bad experience with the dinner theater, not bad, but just eye-opening, was when the kids said, how are you going to pay for the RV? And I was like, well, I guess I could send a pitch to that organization that's interested in me and has been asking me to do a show for the last 7 years. Mm-hmm. So we sent them a pitch. And the pitch is that it would be a variety show where there is a focus on people who do creative things, and we do a focus on them, but we also have these like little side vignettes. Do you remember kind of like a Sesame Street? Did you guys get a Wonderful Grand Band in Ontario back in the 80s? It was a variety. So it had music and comedy sketches. Yeah.
I don't remember that, but I also grew up in the country, so we got like 4 channels. We got the CBC. Of course.
Yeah. So it would have been on CBC. And so it was back in the day when like Ron Hines was just starting out. That's how he got his start. And he was writing songs for the band. They had like a 9-piece band. And they would do these comedy sketches about Catholic school and the Jesuit schools here in town and all these different things. So I grew up with that comedy variety show. And we don't have anything like that here anymore.
Yeah.
So I also really like puppets, and I literally have a shelf full of puppets out there staring at me like, are you ever going to play with us? So we sent a pitch, and the more I thought about it, like, can we come up with, it was only like between 3 and 6 episodes to start off, but it's like we would need to write comedy sketches, and we want to include our kids, and my boys make electronic music, and my youngest son just started doing rap, which is hilarious because he's very white and very Canadian. But it's a way to incorporate our entire family. So the budget that I pitched to this organization, it's accessible media. So they're geared towards people with disabilities. And I don't have a visible disability, but I got diagnosed with PTSD like 12 years ago. So technically I have an invisible disability. So, but when I put the pitch in, it was like, you know what, I'm going to make accommodations for me as a mom. I want my family to work on it. I want Josh to be the camera operator and the editor, and he's also going to do the graphic design, and I'll be the host, and I'll do interviews, and I'll do all the research.
We'll make the accommodations ourselves.
There's 15 jobs on a set. We can do 12 of them, and we'll make the accommodations, and I'll make it safe for this mom to have her kids on set and to have her, like, when I look back at the TV and movie sets that I've been on, there was if you had a baby, you were done. There was no, you're done. Well, she's going to want sick days now if her kid gets sick. She's going to want to breastfeed. She's going to want to whatever. And you just became useless if you became a mom. Or if you got past a certain age, you weren't cast anymore because you weren't attractive enough anymore. And it's like, that just doesn't, like, our lives over because we're over 40? I don't think so.
That's been the prevailing narrative, but I think that things are so opened up now because increasingly there's less gatekeepers. I mean, there's still gatekeepers, but if you have talent and you have an internet connection, get yourself on all the platforms and put your stuff out there. And let that be what you need to put your stuff out there, and let that be your calling card as you slowly build it, you know. And you don't even need,
when you write your own.
Yeah, and you don't even need to have a huge following, but make the work as good as you can make it. And then when you do go to these meetings with these, you know, execs or producers or whoever they are, other people you want to collaborate with, you can show them your online portfolio, you know.
Right.
Or even like skip all that and just start a Patreon and get people that love your podcast and love your work to patronize you and not in the condescending way, but to help fund you. I mean, on your last podcast, I really loved how you were talking about not undervaluing yourself and asking people to spend money on you, because at our house, Dusty's a great businessman, but he's always believed if you give it to them for free, they somehow don't think you're legitimate. So you should charge for things. And honestly, listening to your last podcast, I was like, maybe I need to like put a paywall on my Substack or do something about my approach to creating content, if only because it does require so much of my time. That is my heart, my time that I don't have because I have 2 small children and a husband that's gone 3 or 4 days a week. I do things on nap time and if I have enough energy at the end of the night. So I'm doing all this for free, you know, like why? Why would I do it for free? You know?
I think the belief is there that people wouldn't pay. So I will tell you, this is why I call you a marketing genius, because you posted a picture on Instagram. You have like over 80,000 followers, right, on Instagram, which is bonkers to me. But you posted a picture and it was you with a thing with like a picture of Substack, like the icon or whatever, and you had a little text on the screen that said, I'm moving over to Substack. I can't believe I did this, but I was like, what's Substack? I don't download new things. I'm old. I'm middle aged.
Yeah.
But I downloaded Substack and found you on there. And it was worth it because I liked what you were doing and I was willing to make that switch. And I was like, of course, because she makes my life better because she's putting funny content and she's writing really heartfelt stuff on there and connecting. So it mattered to me. And so, of course, somebody would follow you there. But for me to believe in myself, like that I could go on Patreon or Substack is like, because my experiences tell me otherwise. They say, well, how many copies of your book did you sell? And what about the second book? And what about that show that you did that nobody showed up at? But then it's like, well, there's also been shows where people did show up. So balancing that and having that, like, putting that value on there and trusting that somebody will follow. Like, I'll tell you that I have made far more money helping people self-publish than I ever made selling my books. And I feel guilty about it because it's like this. We published our books for free. So charging someone thousands of dollars, which we literally we hit publish on a book yesterday. And I said to the guys in my living room, don't be afraid to ask people to buy your book. You just spent thousands of dollars to get me to publish it for you. And they were like, oh, and they kind of jumped back, like, because I said the word thousands. And I was like, actually, I'm really reasonably priced, because some people charge between 5 and 10. And so you're doing great. But it was the numbers, like that money exchange of energy for creative stuff. Like if I went to an office every day and just answered phones all day, okay, I come home tired, maybe I got carpal tunnel. But when you're given a piece of your heart, it should be worth, even like entertainers are, you know, when they're really good and they're doing well, like they can make a lot of money because you're giving somebody a reprieve from the rest of their daily grind.
Yep.
So that value, I don't know. I need you to follow me around all day and remind me of all these things that we're saying.
Well,
and
I need you to, though, because
I
mean, I think like we got a lot in common. So we're sort of like emotionally connecting. And I don't go to therapy, but for sure I've got PTSD.
This is our therapy.
Let's just be real. I got some. I got some issues, but you know, I've learned a lot from my husband because he doesn't have a neurotic bone in his body. And he worked as a blue collar guy all through his early adult life, and then transitioned into a road comic, and then learned some sort of like salesmanship there, even just from selling merch and being constant on social media. And he doesn't have that kind of reflexive insecurity that I have. He just put stuff out there, and then he learned stuff along the way as the technology evolved, different platforms changed, different updates. He's always interested in it. Like he's playing around big time with AI now. Like he's always getting into it early, you know? And then I honestly, just through like osmosis of being around him, like I just, you know, you're like, yeah, like just put stuff out there. Like don't overthink it. Like, you know, who cares, you know? And we play off of each other in that way. But what you were saying to Blaine in Tennessee, and him giving him points on, you know, instead of just giving them this thing for free, be like, oh, well, give me a positive review. And then, you know, just to have it be a transaction, because especially in this country, like in America, that's the name of the game. Everybody knows. Everybody's just trying to make money out here. And me, a little frugal Irish Catholic girl, little country bumpkin from Peterborough, Ontario, I didn't learn any of that. My parents were wonderful people. They were good with money, but they didn't have a lot of money. And so they were just like farm people that stayed in their same hometown. They weren't business people. But once you start to like try to think about, you know, how to put yourself out there, but it can also be very, you know, mind-boggling. And so there's like a way to do it. And I'm not doing it right now, by the way. This is what I see my husband doing. I'm not doing it, but I heard you talking about it and giving yourself value, an incentive to do things. Like, for example, with my Substack, it took me a month to write this thing that I posted last week. And it got about the same reaction as something that it took me 5 days to write. And I'm like, I got to rethink this, because, you know, I'm taking all of my nap times and all of my bedtimes to write. And it's like, and then my head's in it the whole time. And then I'm getting frustrated when something happens, so I can't do it. So if I'm going to be if I'm going to have that much time and energy into something, I've got to get something out of it. Because otherwise I'm like, it's not enough for me right now. You know, I'm not saying I need the money to do it, but I need more motivation to be like, why are you giving so much of yourself, so many hours of yourself to something that it's like, you know, so
for some unknown amoeba that might happen successful down the line. Yeah.
But
so I'm going to tell you, so the reason I was talking about the TV show, Hannah, is because walking around my house today, like, and all day yesterday, I was like, I can't wait to talk to Hannah, because this pitch I only sent in like a week ago. And I've been thinking, like, I need writers. Like, as far as making money writing, like, and making money publishing and those things, like, these shows, this broadcaster is coming to me, offering me like this crazy amount of money per episode. And it's like, well, I could make an environment where people that I want to work with, I could send them money to do these things. And instead of it being, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I kind of am, because I got a podcast and, you know, here we are. But like, if I know you're very funny, and I know you do sketches and you do comedy, like you are an actor and all those things. And it's like, do I need to move to Tennessee to work with Hannah? Like, I mean, there's also the internet where we could shoot things in separate places. Like, we've thankfully gone through a pandemic where we produced in our basement. and we edit over online, and we share things on, what do you call them?
Google Drive, cloud drives.
Yeah, all those online things. Josh is my person who is like the online ahead of everything, ahead of the game. And he's also a person who, when something happens, like if I almost fall, my mom is a perfect person for this. She'll say, I almost broke my neck earlier today. And it's like, oh my God, what? And she didn't even slip. There's like, she'll find a patch of grease on the floor and her foot will go out from under it. She hasn't even fallen down, but she'll say, I almost broke my neck earlier. And so Josh is the king of, so nothing happened.
Yeah.
And he really puts my mind at ease with like, so nothing actually just happened there? Or like, the boys didn't get hurt on their bikes because they didn't get to ride them. But Josh was like, so nothing happened? Like, so you just had a thought and nothing actually happened. And he's really good with grounding me. But he's also a person with this super quirky sense of humor. I grew up in Canada. My sense of humor is 22 minutes, whatever, like that sort of vein.
Dun, dun, dun,
and then Josh has this real punk vibe where he was in a punk band when I met him, and they actually broke up. They had a record deal and they broke up so he could move to Canada. That's my fault. I'm Yoko Ono. But he's also got this real sense of humor where I'll say, hey, is this funny? And he'll go, yes. And I'm instantly want to delete it off the internet. And he'll go, no, leave it. Like, see if it lands. Like, he gives me that push to be, he's my first reader. He's the first person that sees all the stuff that I'm doing. And he's such a fan of what I'm doing. And it's like, I want to surround myself in my life right now. Whatever happens, I'm not really not actually, I'm out of my mind worried about the mammogram, but I feel like I'm also here and present and my absolute best self. And I think this is like, I'm on fire. Like, this is exactly what I mean to say. I'm not going to think about this later and go, I can't believe I asked Hannah to write that sitcom, or it's not a sitcom. It's like a, whatever. I can tell you more about that. But what I'm saying is I want to create
Vickie,
shows.
you're,
I want
you're
to
definitely hilarious. That's for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. But there's something there that I love your humor, and I find what you're doing really, really funny. So it's like, and she likes to write, and I've read your stuff, and I think giving each other that permission to be like, look, sometimes I'm going to talk about dead babies. Sometimes I'm going to talk about tragedies, and sometimes I'm going to talk about my mental health, and sometimes I'm going to say whatever. Like, I think giving people room to be all those things means there's like this rich mix of you're getting the best out of that person. If you make if you hold space, I hate that phrase, but when you hold space for people, I think I decided this year, when the new year came in, I said, you know what, this year I'm going to try my luck with strangers, which sounds really sad.
Right.
That's not it kind of is a slight against some of my friends and family, but like I got to this age hating myself, afraid to post stuff, people giving me feedback and like, should you have done that? Like, maybe you're a little too sweet for this industry, or you're so funny. It's too bad you'll never get a break. Okay. Well, you can make your own breaks, and you can make your own TV sets, and you can make your own production facilities, and you can make your own podcasts so that you pick who you want on there, and you write your own books and you publish them yourself so you can put whatever you want in there, and you don't need to listen to 3 rounds or 10 rounds of editors to change your words and your voice. Like, so I'm really, that self-publishing umbrella, I'm a little obsessed with it right now. And it's actually like the idea today to talk to you was to like nudge you towards self-publishing, and maybe you should write a book. But it's like, that's like a glimmer of, of course you're going to write books. That's a natural progression of where you're going to go. But it's also like, what would make you happy now, and how could someone possibly capitalize on your brilliance and also work around your family, your beautiful, healthy family that you're doing such a good job with. So if I can only get, like, as a producer, if I could get half an hour out of you a month, awesome. That's like 6 hours a year. That's a lot. That's a lot. And waiting and knowing that, like, instead of setting a deadline and saying you have to do it every single week, it's like, no, we have a year to do this show, or we have, and this is just, I don't mean to lock anybody into
do you have the RV yet? Are you going to is the show like in, I don't know, production, or is it like, I mean, they've offered you money. Is that what I heard you say?
So they've been chasing me for 7 years to do a show. They want to be in the Vickie business. So I sent them back a pitch that we've already discussed it with them. And they said, if you put this and this in the pitch, there's a pretty good chance that we'll be able to put you in production so they would sign by the end of the summer, and it would be on the air 2026. So there's no contract. I have not signed a contract with them. But what this has triggered for me is I made TV in the past, and I did it in the US and I did it in Canada. And after that show got rejected, because it was a show about my life, it got rejected and I was devastated. And I was like, I used to do TV, but it turns out we still do TV and we make content now every single week consistently. This is week 25 for this one.
Yeah,
25 straight weeks. I didn't think I could commit to that, but I also didn't think I could commit to writing every day. And when I read The Artist's Way 5 or 6 years ago, and I write every single morning. I didn't today, but I did meditate. But I write every day, at least 3 pages. I write long form in a notebook. And so I've got stacks of notebooks. And I didn't think I could ever be that person. But getting my head around, you can also reinvent yourself. And so instead of being a person who puts everything off, procrastinates, doesn't follow through, hates herself, is afraid to be creative, I could also switch gears and go, she does believe in herself. She encourages other people. She writes every day. She plays and practices guitar every day. She drinks enough water. She went for a walk. Like, I can be that person too. Because if I made myself into the other person, I can switch gears and I can. So to answer your question, no, I don't have my name on a contract yet, but
it's opening up the door to creativity.
The more like, you know how it works. Like, the more brand you have built, the more likely they are to take it. So when I have a meeting with them, when they read over the proposal, and they do love me, and they've been chasing me for a long time, like, because we're sensitive to people with disabilities. I have an invisible disability, and I have production experience, so I'm kind of the really perfect combination for them, and they love Josh. So, it might happen sooner, but at the latest, I think it'll be September 2026 when it would need to be made to be on the air. So that's what they're telling me.
Well, it's always.
But I'm also open. They listed off so many other broadcasters that are out there looking for content that they partner with, and it was like, so if I'm willing to get back into production, there's hundreds and thousands of channels now, and there's also public access. We only need a little bit of money to get in I've already got like my public access membership or whatever, because I made public access TV in the US. So I can upload this podcast right now up to public access and put it in every station in the United States would have access to it around the country. And so if they see it posted, they can broadcast it on there. So we could be in literally every state if we posted it. And it was like, I just realized that as I'm saying that we could be putting our podcast on there.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
So does that answer your question? So there's potential. So we're not locked into anything, but I think that idea of, if I'm able to find somebody that I connect with, who I believe in their abilities, and I also know like they have the same priorities as me, raising the family, keeping the family healthy, being in a committed relationship, like these are things that are going to come first. And like, and at the end of the day, if I can get 15 minutes out of Hannah, I want it. And I want to send her a lot of money, because you're worth it and your time is valuable. And I know that means that if I'm broadcasting that to the world, I'm going to start getting better offers in my lap, and not, oh, you need your family there? Ew. Ugh. I know that that's what I want to put out, and I know that's what I'll get back, because that's just a law of attraction.
It is.
Does that answer?
I mean, I think that all sounds so exciting. I mean, it sounds like you're creatively flourishing. Like, you have so many ideas and passions and things that you're working on and building. And I mean, I think it's great that people want to be in the Vickie business. I mean, doesn't everybody want someone to say that to them? I mean, I think that that's amazing. And that's invaluable. I think that, and nothing else, even if the project doesn't come to fruition, even in the way you think it will, you're developing relationships with other people, because, just with my own experience in entertainment, and then seeing my my husband's experiences, like, there's some, like, not fun, cool people in the business, but it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they're not your people, but then you can also connect to an amazing producer who actually is pretty powerful, but you just connect with them, and they're just people. You're just trying to get out there in front of people and figure out who your people are. Some people are not going to like you. Some French Canadians are not going to like you, okay? And that's pretty typical, if you ask me, about the French Canadians.
That's fine.
All right? We don't need to get down that rabbit hole, but we have some Anglophone opinions on the French Canadians in this house. But they hate you. They don't want anything to do with you. I've had a showrunner who told me I was too sweet for this business. I had another showrunner who, couldn't stop hiring me for things, and totally believed in me and made me feel funny. So I have both experiences, right? But, it's really just like what you choose to focus on. And
Exactly.
I mean, I can't believe that I feel like I'm like the motivational speaker because I've been so depressed this week. But I feel like me and you have the same issues that seem to vacillate in both of our minds and lives. So that's why I'm like, when I hear you saying like, I got all this stuff going on and I'm just trying to do this, I'm like, I get it. I'm trying to do all those things too.
I will tell you, and just so that you've heard it at least once this week, I want to be in the Hannah business. I hope we get some TV deals along the way where like it's just maybe just for Canadian broadcasters, that's fine, or public. But if you want to do a podcast for free and we just get together every couple of weeks and chat, also, or we bang out a couple of it, like seriously, either end of the scale. But I really think that when we value each other, it broadcasts something to the world. It's putting a price tag, like it's putting a price on it because it is an exchange of energy and it's just money. Mm-hmm. Like I think if I take that attitude towards it, I'm going to meet more people who are like, you know what? I got this budget. I've had people call me and say, I have to spend this budget by this time. Just take it. I need to spend it. So just take it. And it's like, I want more of that. Mm-hmm. That's actually happened. So I want to ask you this before, because I feel like I could talk to you for the rest of my life.
This has just been a girl hang, I feel like.
Absolutely.
I feel like we've just been hanging.
Absolutely. Can you tell me about your experience as a stand-up comedian? Did you do it in Canada or in the U.S.? And what was your experience? And the reason I'm asking that is because you have a post on your Substack about that you gave it up. And so I'm really curious because I did some comedy here in Newfoundland and I gave it a solid 6 months, which I think is more than most people expect for a career. I did 15 shows in 6 months and I had a kind of a crap experience. So I'm wondering if I should move to Toronto. I'm just kidding. But like, what was your experience? How did you get pushed out of comedy, or why did you give it up? Like, what was your experience? Because I know you were funny. I have no question that you were amazing on stage.
Yeah.
And you're very funny.
I was funny. I'm still funny. I know if there's one thing I'm sure of is like, I know I'm funny. But
I agree,
I get,
100%.
but it's like, there's so much more to life than talent. There's you really have to take in some interpersonal issues, So, well, I'll try to give you like a fairly kind of like short version.
Okay.
I moved to Toronto when I was 21. I went to acting and film. Yeah. Yes. Yep. I went to acting and film school at Humber College in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be a dramatic actress. I didn't think of myself as a funny person per se. I was always the funny one with my friends, but I was such a country bumpkin, I didn't even know that like stand-up was a thing. I was vaguely aware of Saturday Night Live. All I knew of a female comedian was Gilda Radner. So I moved to Toronto.
Yeah, certainly there's no female Canadian role models for us.
Yeah, I just didn't know. I just thought if I want to be an actress, which is what I wanted to be, then I got to go to Toronto and I got to be an actress in Toronto. So I went to acting school and I did great. I was a really good dramatic actress. I read A Doll's House by Ibsen and Chekhov and I studied it and I was very profound. And so I was doing really good in theater school. And then my dad said, you should go to the Second City. So I went to the Second City and I started taking classes there and I got the comedy bug. I was like, oh, wow, I got a lot of different characters rolling around up top. Okay. And so I started a sketch comedy troupe and just kind of like infiltrated what I was discovering as the comedy scene in Toronto. So I was, so then I graduated from theater school, from film school, within a first year I was 23, within my first year out of school, I booked a television show on YTV. It was a kids TV show called That's So Weird. And, but I booked that. It was like a nationwide search for young, funny talent. And I booked that because I had been doing lots of improv and sketch around town. So that's how I got the audition. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have anything. And then I, once you have this gig, that's, pretty substantial money by Canadian actors' terms, then I got my agent, right? So then for the next like 5 or 6 years, I'm an actress in Canada. and a comedic actress. And I'm doing the comedies, I'm doing the improv, I'm doing all this. So I started to do stand-up, and stand-up proved to be a very addictive hobby. And in a sense, I kind of got swept up in the stand-up pursuit, and in a way kind of like started to not be as interested. It's certainly in dramatic acting and any of that kind of stuff. And so I even stopped doing like improv, and I was just kind of like sort of self-identifying as a stand-up, even though I was still an actress, going to commercial auditions, auditioning, this and that. And then, so suddenly I'm just like thinking of myself as a stand-up, and I'm watching stand-up. This is during like the Louis C.K. era, where it's very like confessional comedy. Like, I'm a bad person, but isn't it hilarious? And it's just like very of that era. This is before Me Too. So it's just like, you know,
Yes.
And truly it is before Me Too, because I mean, I came into that stand-up scene in Toronto, and I mean, certainly I had a chip on my shoulder because I thought I wasn't anything. But I also came into that stand-up scene a pretty young 26-year-old with a lucrative acting job that everybody knew about, and they weren't giving me any they were trying to help me out. Like they were like, we're not going to help this girl. This is not like, we're not going to be nice to this girl. We're not going to help this girl. We find this girl annoying. So generally speaking, I was not very well received in the Toronto stand-up community, and I had a chip on my shoulder. I'm not going to say I didn't, but anyways, that was my general.
How were the audiences? How did the audiences respond?
Initially, not well. Like, to be fair, like, they're not going to help me because, but Vickie, you know, you only did it for 6 months. No one's good their first 6 months, like, ever. Like, you know, 6 months is not a long time. You need at least 2.
That was profoundly good, I thought.
Yeah, you need at least 2 years to even.
I believe that.
Yeah, you do. You need at least 2 years.
Sincerely.
And certainly, I think by the 2 or 3 year mark, I started to get better. But at that point, I had made so many bad interpersonal decisions, probably dated some stand-ups or whatever. Who knows? I can't remember. Don't want to talk about it. But,
but I hear you.
You know, so, gosh, I love how I said I was going to give you the shortened version. And
no, I love this. This is brilliant.
Yeah, but in my pursuit of like assuaging my fragile ego, I kind of like went down a path that I did like stand-up. It did let me exercise my writing muscles, but I never quite thought, this is for me. And then I met my husband in New York. He was a stand-up. I was already about to be moving to LA, like with a visa and stuff. But instead he was like, do you want to come to Nashville instead? And I said, let's just try it. So he was working the road, and he was traveling the Southeast and the Midwest doing stand-up, like a true road dog, like not glamorous, getting paid like $500 per gig. That's a good paying gig per weekend, just burning the rubber. And I did that for 2 or 3 years, and I mean, it was too much. It was like the travel was insane. And
so you followed? You went with him on the road?
Well, initially
So you weren't performing. You were just traveling with him.
No, I was performing with him. Initially, you know, I would go to his gigs with him a little bit, and then he would like kind of introduce me to some club owners and bookers. But because I was good, I would then be able to book my own shows without him. And so the last 2 years of my stand-up, I was just on my own, doing my own stand-up, and he'd go off and do his stand-up, and I'd go off and do my stand-up, and then we'd come back together. But the road is a treacherous lifestyle, and it is not for everyone. It's not for most people, I'll say that. But my husband was able to make it work until industry started to pay attention to him, and now he can fly places, and it's a little bit more of it's still a hard lifestyle. He's still traveling a lot. But that's kind of what happened to me. It was like, and then eventually I was like, what am I doing? I don't want to be traveling like this. I don't like doing this stand-up like this. And I just had to stop. I just had to just stop, and I don't miss it. So I know I made the right decision with stand-up. I don't miss stand-up.
So you don't miss the road?
I don't miss the road, but I also don't miss the actual stand-up. I don't miss, you know, because I think like, you know, I think I have some like, I have an abundance of talent, but I haven't quite figured out how to channel it in a way. Like, I think Instagram was a really good channeling for me. But then the internet starts to drive you crazy. Then the kind of like, you know, things will go viral, not because they're good, but because there's something else, you know? And then, and then Substack, I did like about stand up. I liked about the writing, you know? And so I like writing, you know? But then even with my writing, I'm like, I'm not really sure that long form prose is my best thing. But I'm like, I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, I truly don't know, you know? So it's kind of like a long form version.
So I started stand up. I had wanted to for a long time. I guess like I had a midlife crisis, I guess, last year. I don't even know what was going on last summer or why I wanted to do that. You know what? I was making hats. I was crocheting hats as a stress reliever. And this guy that runs an open mic here in town started giving out hats to people who did 5 open mics at his shows. So I made an orange one, and I thought, this is really nice. I'd like to have this hat. That's where it started. So I've been performing for, I don't know, as a musician and as an actor for a long, long time, but never, like, I've always been really impressed by people who can get up and, like, I took pictures of my friend's set one time. She had a microphone and a stool next to it, and I was like, this is pure terror for me. So I always wanted to do it, and we're obsessed with stand-up. Like, that's how we also like Timothy Oliphant. We really like we watch Yellowstone and what is Timothy Oliphant's show?
Justified.
So we like a lot of police dramas and all those things, but we really, really love stand-up. That's the go-to, like that's our medication, you know? So I decided to do it, and I tried this one night, and it was this little tiny pub that usually there was only like 8 people in the room. But for some reason, the night that I decided to do it, there was someone came up that looked like someone from Saturday Night Live.
Currently, like a current person.
Yeah, and there was someone from Toronto. So I was like, oh my God, this is like an international audience. And there was this woman from Toronto she was coming home to bury her 100-year-old grandmother. And so all these relatives were there for her. And there was this woman that someone said, she's from Saturday Night Live. And I was like, this is it. It's my first time doing stand-up. There's someone from Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to happen.
It's a big break.
First night, it's going to happen. That night went fantastic. We got a video of it. It was my first set ever. It was from an experience I had had a couple of weeks before, and I complained to some comics about it, some comedian friends, and they were like, you should do stand-up about that. And I was like, no, it's too personal. You know, it's not really, I don't know if it's okay for me to talk about this thing that happened. And they were like, no, as soon as this guy hits send on his phone, it becomes your story. I was like, okay. So it went really well, and I was like, this is amazing. I'm so good at it. And so I kept going to the open mics. There was 2 in town, and so I was doing that I maybe did like 10 of them. And I was like, it was nerve-wracking, but I loved it. And I was doing new material every week. And then I was like, okay, I would, at some point, the next step I'd like to headline. 15-minute headlines. Like, nobody's doing anything longer than that.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm at 5 minutes. How do I get to 15? And I mean, obviously, mathematically speaking, more than 5 minutes. So I asked the 2 showrunners in town who do the open mics for 7 minutes. And they both shut me down. I mean, there's not a lot of people doing it in Newfoundland. There's a very small comedy scene. And we're very famous for like Mark Critch and Sean Majumder and those guys who made it. Mary Walsh, and Kathy Jones is my favorite. But they're kind of rare, and they went off to Ontario. So I was like, okay, I just want 7 minutes. Like, that's just, I'd be happy if I could just do a little bit longer form. And they both were like, nope, you haven't paid your dues yet.
Yeah, that's pretty typical comedy. Yeah.
And it was like, but we're in Newfoundland. We're not in like Toronto or New York or somewhere famous. Like, this is St. John's. Like, there's the only people in the audience are the other comics. So like, it was unnecessarily gatekeeping.
Mm.
So this one guy had written me back this email saying, yeah, everybody wants to headline, join the club. And it was meant to be kind, I guess, but it was like comparing me. He was like, there's this other guy in town. He's like 18 and he just started. He wants to headline too. So who do you think you are? And I was like, what? I'm asking for 2 extra minutes. Like, what?
Right.
Why are we crabs in the bucket keeping each other down? We eat our own here in Newfoundland, right? So I got mad and I was like, that's it. I'm not doing any more shows. And then I decided, like, no, I kind of really like it. So I sat down with Josh and I was like, look, what if we did our own show where you host? Because Josh tried comedy, had almost the exact same experience as me, where hard room, too hard, don't have thick enough skin, whatever. And he left it alone. So I sit down and I go, how about we do our own show? You'll host, I'll do a 15-minute headline set. And he was like, absolutely not. Nope. And so I have a meltdown. I'm sharing too much on the podcast right now, but that's okay. So I go off for a couple of days and I'm like just ready to get a divorce.
Yeah.
So I go back and I go, look, if we're not going to support each other in our creative endeavors, maybe this isn't going to work out. Maybe you should get your own place.
Vickie needs to work on her art, Josh. Okay.
I wish it wasn't true, but this is word for word.
I get it.
That's right.
And he was like, oh. And I was like, remember when I asked you to do, produce a show and host it, and you said no? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm serious. I want you to do a show. And he was like, yeah, no. And I went, I think we're done if you don't do this show with me. So I know.
So we did a show.
What a jerk to live with. I'm the worst.
Yeah.
I am the worst.
Listen,
But
you're not. You should see the shit that goes down in my
put a
house.
show-
Excuse my language.
We had it. It's vicious. It's like to the mat every time. Drag down. Take the ring back. I'm done. It's brutal. So for every reinvention, there's been at least 3 divorces each year. So it's usually a related. Hopefully, when menopause hits, this will stop happening. If you know what I mean, the moods will stop. The stabilizing might happen. So we did a show.
But this is what I tell my husband. Oh, you say you can't handle my moods. You get yourself a nice little sweet girl who's nice to you. You'll be bored out of your mind, buddy. You'll be bored out of your mind. They want the spice. Oh, that's why we're
running
back into your arms. Oh, he won't even know what to do with himself.
Rewind this part back when you start thinking about how bad you got
Guys do not want nice, stable women.
They don't want low maintenance either. I realized that we were listening while I was painting our house. We were listening to a lot of John Connolly, that's my childhood theme is John Connolly. And I was like, you know what? And Charlie Pride. And it was like, all these women that these guys sing about, like, I don't need mansions on the hill and I don't need crystal chandeliers. Like, you know what? Those women end up with nothing. The high maintenance women, men will rise to the occasion. Whoever partners will rise to the occasion. They want high maintenance.
Yeah, they do.
Because low maintenance, you don't get the rings, you don't get the name, you don't get any. This is we got to cut all this out, by the way. But we did the show, and we had a bar owner who was more than happy to host for free. And so we filled the room. People were walking in off the street. We advertised. We really did a great job advertising. And the bar owner said, "Anytime you want to do a show, let us know."
That's it.
Oh, you
did things exactly right, which is, let me say 2 things to that. When I was doing stand-up, I remember another female comedian who was already working for Yuck Yucks and stuff like that. We were talking about some kind of showcase coming up for Just for Laughs, and I didn't get a showcase, and she was just like, "Did you ask for one?" And I was like, "No, I didn't ask for one." She's like, "Well, every single guy in this room, especially those guys that just started, they all emailed and asked for one." She goes, "Guys ask for things, and girls don't ask for things." I don't know if that's true now, but it was definitely true for me.
Because I think it's all 100% true.
It is 100% true, and good for you for asking for it. Because because that producer is well within his right to say no. It's his show. He can handle it however he wants, and whatever his comedy philosophy is that he doesn't think you've paid your dues. That's up to him. It's a free country. It's his show. He can do whatever he wants.
Right.
But you can also ask, because he could have said yes, and if you didn't ask, you wouldn't have found out. But you did find out, and then it prompted you to build your own show, which is exactly what you should have done. That's exactly
the move. You just named my next book on comedy. It's called He Could Have Said Yes.
Yeah.
So there was a showcase here in April, and a couple of our, so we have friends, people that we've grown up with and spent a lot of time with are also comedians. And so when they started doing shows and they weren't asking me to even be a part of it, and it's like, boys, we're doing the tickets are $10. This is not high stakes here. And I wasn't getting any calls. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm just not funny. And that's not possible, obviously. So... But the Yuck Yucks, they came to town in April.
Just for Laughs.
Just for Laughs. Sorry, Just for Laughs came to town, and they were doing a showcase, and they were looking for new faces. Like, hello, I don't have a new face, but I am a new comedian.
Yeah.
But I didn't get a look in. And so I got in touch with the person who was supposed to be the connection between Newfoundland and Just for Laughs, and it was a woman. And she didn't get back to me for a few weeks, and she was like, "Oh, I'm not doing that anymore, but if you want a spot, just ask." And I was like, I'm not asking. They should be beating my door to just the massive ego that I walk around with.
Girl.
And then the little tiny insecurity. And it vacillates between those two things. And it's like high maintenance and low self-esteem is such a toxic combination.
Oh, you've just convicted my heart. That's just me. I have a huge ego. So insecure.
Huge.
So insecure.
Huge.
So entitled in my head to be like, I'm not going to grovel and ask. How does anybody get anything?
Exactly.
I don't think everyone's as egotistical as me, but it's not egotistical. It's like, it's something. It's the artist.
I think there's some combination there of the creativity and the maggots, and also I think I deserve this much money. I don't want to be working for literally getting past $5 at the end of an open mic. I have in my phone case, I have all my money that I've made from stand-up. That'll tell you. So when they'd give me a $10 bill, I'd put it in my phone case. And so there's this little pocket of maybe $30. That's how much I made at stand-up. And it wasn't about money. I just want to be making progressively more. I want to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
So okay, if I want to go into comedy, then I'm looking at a show that I might get paid $85 next time. But if I want to do a TV show, then we're looking at, we're looking at $40,000 or $50,000,
contracts.
and then matched money in Canada, because Canada has a very different arts community, and so there's matched money, and there's all kinds of tax incentives here in Newfoundland. If the production happens, if post production at the very least happens in Newfoundland, but I can go off across Canada or across the U.S. and make whatever, and also sell the show to other broadcasters. The station that I'm talking to is they only want first broadcast window. So, but we're talking about bigger and bigger money in the TV world, more than I've made before. And then it's matched by Picture A&L. So there's like decent money. But like if I wanted to stick a comedy, like $85 a night, and there's only 2 nights a week that I could do open mic. And that's not every night. That would be like $5 a night. So it's not glamorous. But there's like, but you have these other skills, and it does kind of line up better with my ego. Like I deserve to be paid for my time.
Stand-up's a grind. And it doesn't.
And you have to get better at it.
It does, but it does take a long time to make money at stand-up.
Yes.
And that's based on both my and my husband's experiences. Now,
and
if you get to that next level, you can make great money. But it takes a long time. So if there's things that you think you're better at, and you can monetize, I would not do stand-up, but just accept that stand-up is not a money-making pursuit, especially not in Newfoundland, especially not in Canada, honestly.
That's just it. Like we have a show, like, so the other show idea was, so we have comedy and music, and we also had these open book nights where people could come out and read. We've only done one, but it went really well, where people could come out and read from their books that they published or from works in progress. And it was amazing. So the other show idea that we are pitching is that we would go around and go to a town, maybe offer some workshops in polishing up your reading or finishing a song or working on a 5-minute set for stand-up, and then we shoot it like that. Then we have a performance event set up where we shoot the show that people are getting up and performing. And it might be sometimes for the first time ever, or it could be seasoned professionals that just want to break. But those 3 different avenues are there for me. Like I've produced all those different shows, so I could take that on the road and we could do a tour. Like, so it's like, well, so what are you going to do? Which one makes money?
There's creative options.
I don't know. There's options, but like that's not a solid plan. Like I get that that it's flaky and
no. I mean, it sounds like you're like for example, I'm taking a break from social media after the I've done a couple podcasts. I'm going to promote them. I'm still being creative, but I'm not putting anything out for a little while. And but I want to use that time to just get grounded and to reassess, because I honestly got into some kind of like manic mindset where I was like, I got to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, and it got so overwhelming that I couldn't see clearly, and to a certain extent I still can't. But I do believe like when it settles and things kind of just calm down a little bit, for myself, and I believe probably for you, if you can just give yourself a moment to just sort of let stuff settle, and then, as you say, what things come to your doorstep, and then and what really excites you, to ask yourself what excites you to put yourself into.
Yeah, it feels good. That's how you know that it's a good thing for you. It feels good, and when it doesn't feel good, I think that's a good indicator this is not the thing for me, or not right this moment, or whatever,
Right.
I feel like we have had such an intimate conversation. I just realized we're on a podcast. Vickie, you just shared your hopes and dreams about shows and I was like, oh my God.
This is our weekly therapy.
So I'm going to do a little pat on the back because we just created an hour and a half of content. So we might not have written anything today, but we just created an hour and a half of content that people will listen to and go, I hate both of them. I hate all 3 of them. That Josh is an idiot to stick with her. Or they go, I love her. Well, I love both of them. We should give them a contract to make a show so Vickie can go to Nashville and Hannah can come to Newfoundland and we do a comment. Like I've imagined all of it. And it's like, you can't say that to people. They'll think you're crazy. But I see you in Newfoundland. Like I see bringing you around to all the little spots. Not during tourist season.
We love Newfoundland in this family. We have,
and you're pronouncing it properly. You're already halfway there.
Well, I know how to pronounce. Girl, I'm Canadian. Come on, get out of here. I am a dual citizen now. But
same.
We love Newfoundland. My dad loves the East Coast. I worked in Halifax for several years. Right. I know Halifax is not Newfoundland. My aunt is from Cape Breton.
Do your kids have their Canadian citizenship?
No, not yet, but they are going to get it.
It's a very quick application. Yeah. You get it automatically. You know that? It's a paper. It's a form that you send in, and they send you back a beautiful certificate with a little welcome to
I
Canada thing for
know.
both
And I need
kids.
to go ahead and get
It's
it because I
automatic.
put a rush on my American citizenship because, things down here, you
Yeah,
never really know what's going on with immigration. I was like,
totally.
I'm going to go ahead
Yep.
and get my citizenship. So, but
Yes.
I do
Yeah.
want to get there. They are going to get it. I want to get that figured out for them because, you'd always meet these dual citizens growing up in Canada whose dad is from the US and then they never go to the US because like nobody ever got
So
them their
exotic.
passport, so they're just Canadian that have an American parent. But
Exactly.
I forget what I was going to say. Oh, I love you. I think you're so sweet. And
I love you
yeah,
too.
and I'm vibing with
You should come to Newfoundland. Like I can see it.
yeah.
Like
I want to.
I don't want to do comedy right now, but I can see us doing a show. I really can see us putting off a show in like there's a sweet little venue here. It's like a 1,500 seat, and it's just brand new, and it's gorgeous. I mean, I don't want a 1,500 seat venue. That I would die. But there's like a LSPU hall that has like 120 seats.
Well, I want
We
you
could
to
fill
take
that.
me on a tour around St. John's and Dildo
Oh
and
my
all
God.
these
In a
wacky
heartbeat.
names. We have an ABC's book of Newfoundland and like Placentia
Oh God.
Bay and like Quartz and Dildo and like because Dusty he has some fans and who are friends from Newfoundland and we were just up in Toronto and they came and visited us and they always bring us
Nice.
Newfoundland stuff and it's like so cute and my
Oh.
kids like yesterday Sam was wearing a Newfoundland shirt like we have so much stuff from Newfoundland.
You should come to Newfoundland. I think we should do a little show in a little tiny place and just have a couple of female comics and just, or a skit, or we just start a TV. I don't know, Hannah. I just want to be in the Hannah business because you're hilarious. I think you're so funny.
Okay, well,
And so I think you're together because you're here, you're wearing clothes.
yep.
Your kids aren't crying in the background. There's no police. There's no sirens behind you. There's
It's all
there's
happening.
no police in your front yard. So I think you're doing a pretty
Yeah.
good job. You're keeping it together, and you're very
You
funny
are too.
and a
You are
fantastic
too.
writer.
And I'm excited
Oh.
for you because it sounds like you're in a season of just like very fruitful ideas and just
I'm in a panic.
yeah, you've got a lot of
This moment
energy
right
and,
now, I'm
and
just
it's
in a
like
panic.
it's like unlimited and it's contagious and
It feels like a big push. Like we've been doing the podcast. It started as like we should do another podcast, and it came from doing comedy when I was making jokes about family members and my friends, and then I would post it online, and I was afraid they'd see it. So when they would get in touch, I wanted to say like, "Wait, before you say anything, are you mad at me? Like, did you see the joke I made about your dead dad?" It was really
Right.
like some really not off color, but just
no, I get
really
it.
like
I've always trying
they-
to talk about my dead family and my husband's like, don't say that online. I'm like,
Oh, what are my final thoughts? If it doesn't work out with your husband, marry me. I'll get
Oh.
rid of this one. We'll just,
my gosh.
it's legal everywhere. Like I'm so happy to find you, and I'm gonna go back and tease my son because you know what? We've been talking about visiting people he's meeting online, and they're great kids. Like they have common interests, and they're homeschooled. So he's meeting all these other homeschool kids who do electronic music and stuff. So I'm just happy to meet
Wait, you
somebody that I
homeschool?
connect with, and yeah.
oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to pick your brain on that
It's the
too.
best. It is the absolute best, most amazing, freeing thing because the schedule, there's no bullying, there's no any of the problems that happen in school, and there's also they can follow through on any interest that they have. Like you go down their rabbit hole, and they excel in the areas that they want to.
Yeah.
They're actually
No, I'm
interested
into
in.
it.
So they're learning
We're a
all of
homeschool
it.
curious family.
Hippies. We're just
Yeah.
hippies. We're like off the. We use all the technology and all that stuff, but we're pretty. We're hippies.
Well,
So,
if
but
you're a
we're-
hippie, you
we're
got
all
to be
over the
using
place.
technology. I mean, and you're not a Luddite,
You have to, unless you're Amish. Okay, so this is a part of your beauty, I think, is that you just said you're taking a break, which to me, and so you were like, let's not promote any particular channel or whatever. But during this lull, I think people should go look you up on Instagram and Substack and
Yeah.
subscribe and do the paid subscription. And just this is one of those things where like be an early adopter. Get in early because Hannah Slay is going to be one of those people. I know it. I don't know what it is going to be, but I know
Oh, Vickie,
you are a
marry
person like
me.
follow. You're just getting started. Like this is a second, maybe third, fourth life that you're having, but you are coming into your own. You're the mom power, the mom energy that comes with having babies and creating humans
Yeah.
from your body is such an empowering thing. And you're giving birth to all these creative things too. It's the birthing process. And if you remember when you went into labor, this is what I'll leave you with. That feeling of those days when you were new, the baby was about to come out, and you're just like nesting and you're trying to keep busy and your brain is just on fire, that's the creative process. And that's the feeling you've gotten through that. You've done it. You've created people. You've created things. And that process, I think, is something you'll get more comfortable with. Surround yourself with people who support you. I'm going to volunteer to be one of those people. But surround yourself with people who value what you do and who you are, and understand that you don't want to talk every single day. Like, I don't want to tell you what I had for breakfast today, and I don't want to know what you have for breakfast tomorrow. But like, knowing that, like, let me go back and raise my family, and when I'm ready to engage, it's going to be beautiful. But I think being able to put the brakes on and say, I don't want to overtax myself and write this week because I don't have anything in me, and then my kids will suffer and my family will suffer. Like, that's a very big mental health. That's a big mental wellness tip. Mm-hmm. Knowing that you're creative, loving yourself enough to do it and share it, and also going, you know what, I need to fill my cup this week. I need to replenish this week or this month or however long, or I'm just going to take a break, and that needs to be okay. Like, my hat's off to you, because I don't know that I'm there yet with that courage to say, I need a break. Like,
well, you might just not be at that place where you need it either. You might just be at that place where you're in the flow, you're excited, you have ideas, you have projects, and you're also in a completely different stage with your family than I am. I have two just young kids, and it's it's just I just need a moment to, like, it's almost just like I've just been popping out babies for 4 years, and now I'm like the same person but a different life. And so I'm like, all right, how can I follow these threads that I'm interested in, but with kids? So, but yeah.
When I look back on when our kids, how far apart are your kids?
2 years.
So ours were 3, and we lost one in the middle. And so I was pregnant or breastfeeding for a long time. So my hormones, when I look back to when they were that age, I was not functioning. I was just barely feeding them and myself and keeping myself clean. Like, I wasn't anywhere near where you are right now. So congratulations. And I know a lot of it is like stress relief to have, things to keep yourself busy, but you're so far ahead of the game. And I can't even imagine when they've grown up and they go off to college or whatever. Like, we're going to have all this time on our hands. We're going to need each other, so that we don't follow them in an RV to their universities and, like, live on campus with them.
You're going to be living in Tennessee by then. So we'll just be, we'll be probably sharing some sort of compound together. So
the fact that I am considering Nashville and not for music is so funny to me. My dream, I don't care how it happens, but I'm just hoping that Zanies has an open mic. I don't care if I go down when the building's empty. I just want to go to Zanies and do a minute.
Zanies just added another theater right beside it, like a more of an indie stage. And hey, listen, Nate Bargatze lives in Nashville. Dusty lives in Nashville. Theo Vaughn lives in Nashville. Kathleen Madigan lives in Nashville.
Like, how is Nashville a mecca for comedy?
It's crazy.
Because it's like people were sick of the coast, and living on the coasts is untenable. And then gatekeepers started to be irrelevant. So you can just do whatever it is you want to do. Nate's from Nashville, and Theo escaped LA. I don't know. I'm not like buddies with Theo. I'm not going to say why he moved to Nashville, but he found because Nashville, you can be a regular person in Nashville, and it's not so industry oriented. I don't know if you've ever been to LA, but I like LA, but it's a bizarre place. It's not a normal place. It's not like a slice of life of America. It's a slice of life of what Hollywood is. But if you just want to have a regular fine time and have a community with just regular people, like, you want to be in like a normal city for that, because it also fuels your creativity. So I suspect that that's what Nashville, or maybe even Austin, is also a pretty booming city right now. And it's just like the taxes of these coastal cities, and a lot of stuff that is going on with those now. I mean, it's so expensive, of course. Tennessee is no state tax. I mean, there's just like a lot of good things. You get more for your money over here.
I'm in a place in Newfoundland now that's so small that if I want to take a class in, like, I've done improv and all those things.
Something new.
If I want to try something new, the chances of going into that class at my age and not knowing the instructor is so embarrassing to, like, I know, I don't know how to do this thing. And it's like, I'm not anonymous at all in Newfoundland. And I've done some kind of crazy things here in Newfoundland where, like, public, I got married at a hockey game in front of 7,000 people, not to Josh. I had columns in the paper about, like, full page, like, people know me, so I can't be anonymous and I can't explore these artistic things. And so to kind of get lost in a city right now where we could try new things where there's bike trails, where there's hiking trails, and places to go, Dollywood. And Josh is from North Carolina, and those are all places that when I met him, one of the reasons I loved him almost instantly was because his mom went to school with a guy who wrote Dawson's Creek.
Oh, right on.
I love Dawson's Creek.
Oh, yeah.
So much.
That's my Zygite, too.
So much. Oh, my God. I'm watching it right now as a comfort. It's a comfort food for me. So, but when he took me around North Carolina, it was like living on a movie set. And so I fell in love with it. And we've got family down there. And so we've literally been talking since we got married about getting the RV. I can smell the bacon.
Making it happen.
The kids are in the beds. They're only 10 feet from me. The dogs are getting up in the morning. Like, I can see it. So I know it's going to happen. I just don't know when. And Nashville has been on, not as a musician. I'd never crossed my mind to go down as a musician. It's just... when we met, and you saw the episode with Blaine. Like, we met Blaine at a family reunion in North Carolina. We have nothing in common with the rest of Josh's family, but with these people, we've kept in touch and we connected instantly. And we've been in touch for the last 14 years, raising our kids together. And they've been like, "We wish you lived closer." And I'm like, "I know. I wish we could come down." And they want us to send them a bunch of Canadian crunchy bars. And and by the way, if you need anything from Canada, let me know. We'll just send a pack.
Ketchup chips.
Oh. I would stock up on when we would cross the border, ketchup chips and those zesty taquito chips.
Oh, yeah.
God. And all Mirage bars. Oh man, I miss the food so much. But now I'm ready to they started making them some kind of organic. They don't put the dye in them anymore.
Oh, that's great.
So it's all like this, which is good, but they don't taste quite as good.
Oh, okay. No,
I kind of like the chemicals taste better. But it is at that stage where like Nashville is like Tennessee it's next. It's just I don't even know where it is in the country. Like, are you guys close to Texas?
No,
Where's
it's
Texas?
like basically in the center of the country. It's like a straight shot from Toronto.
Yeah. Perfect.
Right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
Pretty much.
But this Tennessee thing is like, it's calling my name.
Calling.
We found that, I'll tell you, if you've watched any of the other episodes, we started watching Nateland back when we started ours, and I'm only at 120, so don't give me any spoilers. I love it. The stories on that podcast about starting before you're ready, that there's people there's gatekeepers, and that you got to find your own path, and that you got to make your own path and write your own script is like, speaks to my soul. And so it's like, that's my comfort. Like that's that and Dawson's Creek and Timothy Olyphant. But it really is encouraging each other. I think that's the secret to all of it. Hannah, you're a breath of fresh air.
You're a jewel.
Oh my God.
You're a
Thank you
jam.
so much. I feel like we just got on here. I'm devastated this is over.
Well, we're gonna have to
again.
stay in touch during my social media sabbatical, because I don't want to just not talk to you because I'm not on Instagram. But we have each other's phone numbers, so it's okay.
I hate that I have to get on Instagram at all.
I know.
Like that's the only reason I'm checking it the last couple of weeks. So we'll have, at some point down the road, our kids will be a little bit older, and we will have assistants.
There'll be more.
There'll be assistants who will check all those and just say, look, do you want to get in touch with this person? And they won't even tell us about the negative stuff. So we don't have to engage. We'll just live on a farm, on a compound, growing all of our own stuff.
Untouched by the world. Awesome. We'll just live in our own little bubble, and then we'll just have people whispering,
and
you're great, like you're beautiful. Everything you do is perfect.
You know, ravens can talk. We can train the ravens to say, "You're amazing. You're so amazing. Keep writing." That was so funny.
That's the world that we need to live in.
You're so amazing. Oh my God. Thank you so much for this. I was so looking forward to it. It completely delivered. You're amazing. This is awesome.
Thank you, Vickie. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you so much. All right. So thanks for listening to Are You Mad at Me? I'm Vickie Morgan.
I'm Josh Morgan.
And we were joined today by the most amazing Canadian American, Hannah Slay. We're so honored that you were here. Hannah, thanks so much for being on the podcast with us.
Thank you.